Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Affair, where we take our lonely bachelor, Dungeons and Dragons, and put it on a blind date with our pop culture media. I'm your co-host, Cody.
And I'm Joe. How are you doing, Cody?
I'm doing well. I don't know where this kind of game show host thing. I keep leaning in harder on like the fact that this is like one of those like old like love
Love Connection
love
type
connection
deals,
type shows. Yeah,
or what was the name of that big one? Oh,
I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
I don't think I actually watched it, but like I know like
I
the
think it was called like no, it wasn't Match Game. That's a different show. Shoot. There was like a big one where it was like the bachelors would sit behind like and it's been parodied every which way,
yeah,
like a million all over the place and things like that. So, but
right.
yeah. Hey, what have you been up to in terms of like nerdy
Oh
stuff?
boy. A bunch of stuff, but I'll just talk about one. There was a new update for No Man's Sky that
Oh,
added
okay.
it added a few things, but like the big thing is that there's basically these derelict ships that'll show up randomly, and you can go into them and there's like monsters and aliens and stuff in them, and you kind of like have to fight your way through, and they're all procedurally generated, and it's really cool so far. I haven't done a
Nice.
whole lot of the update, but it's been so long since I played that I haven't really touched a lot of the other DLC that is attached to it.
Sure.
So
It's
I'm
it's
just
so weird. There's cute animals now on it. Like,
yeah, I wrote a weird thing. You can ride the animals if they're
I was
like
joking.
no, there's
I,
like so there are animals on the various planets, and if they're like at least horse high, you can feed them and then ride them. And it's not very practical, but it was super fun and I was having a blast with that. But
I was
yeah,
doing like an Animal Crossing thing.
nah nah nah. I mean, yes, I've met some animals, but I also have murdered some animals. But
Okay. Well, that's different than Animal Crossing then.
yeah, and I'm also not in debt to a raccoon or tanuki
Well,
or whatever.
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, that's
Not
actually
yet.
in a later DLC for No Man's Sky. It's the Nook Incorporated expansion where he's just constantly draining your bank account.
Do 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 do.
But what nerdy stuff have you been up to?
Oh man, I've been doing some various things. I've kind of dipped back into Pokemon a little bit.
Nice.
I
Did you
haven't
get the
gotten no, I haven't got the expansion yet, but
gotcha?
I'm still trying to catch the all the ones that I can catch in Galar proper.
Right, right.
Um, which like sometimes can be a chore, but it's fun.
Yeah,
I still have my good girl Kickley, my favorite Pokemon. And then yeah, I mean I'm just like reading stuff, watching stuff, rewatching. I'm rewatching that Age of Resistance show, the Dark Crystal show,
cool.
which has been fun. Just kind of it's been chill around the world of Joe.
Nice.
I haven't been able to focus on anything like new, you know?
Sure, sure.
Like also I don't know if there's been any like new shows that have come out recently. I
No,
know like Netflix is always dropping stuff here and there, but like
yeah,
nothing that I'm intrigued by. So
yeah. I'm just like waiting for stuff because like I'm pretty sure the show Lucifer on Netflix is getting a new season, and I think that got delayed for obvious reasons.
sure,
Um,
it's
there
the last
was,
season, right?
yeah, I think so. And then there was another. There's a couple other shows that I was like, oh, that seems neat, and then like, sure enough, it got delayed for whatever reason. So,
Sure. I
uh,
think we're getting new Umbrella Academy in like a week.
oh, dude, yes.
I think it's coming out like the 31st, something like that.
Oh,
Not
that's
to not to date this episode or anything, but
no, that's great. I'm really excited.
yeah.
Yeah, that's another one that I'm really excited about. I didn't watch the trailer for it though, although I hear it's really good.
Neither have I. It's one of those things. I'll say the trailer for season 1 was really the thing that got me interested in it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again is the thing about that show that has routinely surprised me was I thought that I was going to be very like smug about it because I was like, superheroes are messed up. Haven't seen this one before, and then I was like, wow, it's doing everything like in unique enough a way that makes me, like it was very intriguing.
Yeah,
So
it was
I'm
kind of
excited to
like
see where they go from here.
yeah, it was kind of like watching Watchmen or reading Watchmen for the first time.
Mm,
Cuz like for me, I think that was my first introduction to the concept that heroes are like not necessarily like like it wasn't all golden age superheroes
yeah,
for me. So like Umbrella Academy kind of reignited that like cuz they did it in such a cool way and like all of the characters like yeah, like TLDR they're all fucked up in their own fucked up ways, but they did it in such like a very unique way for all of them and they all have to kind of get over it in order to like not let the world end or whatever. And
yeah,
it was very cool. I like it, and I'm really excited to see how they continue this trend with the information we got at the very tail end of that.
the first season.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always fun, and I think like I don't know, is this original stuff? I don't actually know.
I have no idea
I
if
th-
it's based
I
off
think
of
there were a
a.
couple volumes of the comic, but I don't know.
I
But
have no
anyway,
idea.
who's that off in the distance? They're
Oh
singing doo
man!
wop around a trash can fire. I think I
Wow.
did this joke already, but I don't care.
Kind of.
Doo wop, we do,
Yeah,
doo wop, we do.
it's you and a group of adventurers. Our pre-show mini game where the object or the goal is that we each give each other and the audience a tabletop role-playing game prompt for a campaign, but in reality it is the synopsis for a movie or a comic book or a video game or whatever pop culture media thing we can think of at the time, and it's the other person's job to figure out what that thing is. And so last week, it was my turn to give the one out. And this is a movie.
Yes.
And the prompt was you and a group of adventurers must break into a derelict lab and stop it from ending the world.
Okay. You said it was a movie,
It is a movie.
and then I don't remember. Did you say that there are a lot of these ones, or is it just a singular one-off movie,
Um,
or is
there
that really
are. This particular prompt is one movie,
okay?
but this franchise, we'll call it, and maybe this is giving you an additional hint, but this franchise transcends movies.
Is it Resident Evil?
Yes, it is Resident Evil 1.
Hooray! That's
Yeah.
what I thought. Yeah, because I know there's bad things going on at that there Umbrella Corporation.
Yep, they break into that lab and then they got to stop the lab from ending the world or
That
whatever.
dude directed one of my favorite bad movies.
Oh, what is your favorite bad movie?
It's up there. It's the Three Musketeers movie that he directed.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's very silly.
Nice.
It has nothing to do with the Three Musketeers in any conceivable way.
No. So hit me with your you in a group of it. We shoot off the doo-wop singing garbage chillers, and we found a new group that's just came running in. I think they've got like a couple of dead crocodiles slung on their backs or whatever.
Doo-wop garbage chillers.
Yeah.
I love the phrasing of that. I don't know why. I think that is very funny. Yes. Okay. So mine is you and a group of adventurers have to protect your strange town from an angular eldritch horror.
An angular eldritch horror.
This is a television program.
Interesting. Angular's what's
Um,
throwing me off. Shit.
yeah. I'm gonna read it one more time.
Yeah.
You and a team of adventurers have to protect your strange town from an angular eldritch horror.
Huh.
So, if you guys are listening and you're like, man, I know what that is that Joe just said, please tweet your answers at us at um hashtag yeah. So yeah, it's at Phantom R underscore podcast and use the hashtag Phantom R Adventures.
Yeah. That's throwing me off. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll think about
I
it,
don't
but
know. It might not be something you've watched now that I'm thinking about it.
oh, you know
I'm
what?
actually
It could be. That might that's the interesting thing about this. It gets me to explore my horizons when I do finally figure them out. So,
sure.
today on the Nerdy
Yeah, who's on
Affair,
the date?
looks like Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is back at it again, kicking his
Man, this
shoes. Just did not
if
have a good.
this is a real TV show,
Yeah.
people would get sick of this guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, so here's the thing. Like, this is the first season. So
Oh,
like
okay.
we'll bring second season and it'll be a new actor, but it'll still be Dungeons and Dragons because that's what we know and love.
It'll
So
be Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition.
oh shit.
Just kidding.
So anyways, this week our new blind date likes long walks on the beach, the smell of gunfire,
That's accurate.
and a penchant for ancient curses.
Mm.
That's right, come on down. It's Pirates of the Caribbean. Ba, ba, da, ba. Copyrighted. Don't.
That's why I was doing it with all kinds of weird boodly doops.
Yep.
And it was also fair use. Fair use. This is a for comedy / education fair use. And we weren't actually using the wonderful score of Klaus Badelt and Hans Zimmer. And then Klaus Badelt left after the first project, and Hans Zimmer took over as the primary composer for the rest of the sequels until I don't think he composed the most recent one, which I never saw.
Are you going on the
Uh,
date with Pirates of the Caribbean or is Dungeons and Dragons?
well, Cody, um, this is one of my favorite movie franchises.
Nice.
I know that yeah, it's so obviously there's like some elements of it that haven't aged great.
What?
Particularly a certain, star of it. Um but I saw so here's a fun little fact about me. Um is that this movie came out in like 2003, I want to say. And the thing is, um this was kind of like when I was going through that like middle school phase of like, things from when I was a kid are dumb, you know? Like,
Sure, yeah.
but there was something a friend asked me if I wanted to go see this movie with her, and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds like fun. I knew nothing about it except that I thought that the trailer looked kind of cool, and I left and I was just like I was absolutely blown away. Um I was like, "Wait, pirates are cool." And yeah, I would say this is an important movie franchise for what I ended up doing with my life.
Nice.
In terms of because then after that, that was like when all the like specials started coming out where it was like the real Pirates of the Caribbean. And that was
Yeah.
the first time I kind of had this idea of like, oh man, like this is a kind of fun topic, but also you can look at it like historically. And so yeah, I owe this franchise a lot. And I even like the ones that people don't necessarily like.
Sure.
I think 2, 3, and 4 are a lot of fun if flawed movies. But anyway, um, so yeah, I mean, this is kind of like an interesting franchise to adapt for a couple of reasons. And if it's okay with you, I'm gonna kick off with my point number one.
Well, before we get into that,
Oh, okay, cool.
just one little bit beforehand.
Yes.
Normally, the way this show works is we're going to do our own personal tweaks and homebrew hacks to make it feel like Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever
Yeah.
show we're doing. However, I will recommend that if pirates and boats and things are actually like really cool and you want to explore it even more, and you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, there is a book out called Ghost of Saltmarsh, which has kind of
Ooh,
pirate slash seafaring stuff. But that being said,
interesting.
we're going to push that aside and do our own hacks.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to check that book out. Um, so yeah, my point number one, uh, a magical world with non-magic users. Okay,
Okay.
so Pirates of the Caribbean is a franchise that is a pretty magical world. It's full of superstitions, curses, as Cody mentioned, pirate lores being real. But the thing is that this is not a franchise with magic users. So this is a world that has magical elements, but the player characters that you're participate or the people interacting with them, it's in a way it's like an alt history. It's like, all right, yeah, the East India Trading Company is real, but what if Davy Jones' Locker was also real?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so there's like a couple exceptions to this rule, but like the one major exception ends up being like a literal sea goddess. So I don't know if you necessarily want that at your table because that's a little broken. Um, so in my mind, I would say, um, if you have a person who is like determined to be a magic user, then I would limit like what subclasses they could be. I think like, divinity wizards or things like that. Subclasses that might not have a lot of combat potential, because, like the magic in Pirates of the Caribbean really isn't used for combat. It's more used in like social situations or helping to solve like quandaries because, Will Turner isn't throwing fireballs.
What?
Um,
That would be
so I
rad,
think
though.
it would be rad. He has a fire sword at one point, but that's more ingenuity than anything else. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, I think my big thing is that this is a magical world with magical things that these characters are interacting with, but they themselves should not be magic. So, point number
Cool.
1.
My point number one in my Pirates of the Caribbean hack is something I like to call infamy.
Ooh.
So, pirates, right? And this may transcend a little bit, but all the pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean are infamous for something, right? You know, you've got Captain Jack Sparrow, who is infamous for being this kind of wild card of a captain. You've got Barbossa, who's kind of this like uh, this ruthless cutthroat kind of individual, and some other ones
Mhm.
in the later movies, if memory serves. So, in order to simulate kind of that weird like infamy that other pirates had and stuff, we need some sort of reputation system, something that embodies the essence of the crew that you're working for or with. Something that isn't just fluff, but something that also has mechanical benefits. Because I think if you're going to include something like this, it should be both narratively strong, but also mechanically good. Um,
Hmm.
so in my hack, infamy is a reputation system that goes up and down based on the party's exploits. A starting pirate crew would probably start at zero. They've done nothing noteworthy, and they're you know they're new. They're starting out. With each great exploit, however, you get a rank of infamy, and what that exploit is decided by your GM, but it should be noteworthy, whether it's like an adventure or an achievement, something that they did that like no other pirate has, something like that. But each blunder or potential TPK, if that's the route you're going, reduces your infamy. So this is something that goes up and down based on the actions of the players. What's nice about this quote unquote infamy rank is your infamy rank is added to any check that could be influenced by your crew's infamy. And what that means is, say you're intimidating another vessel from responding to your raid, right? Like you're going in,
Mhm.
you're doing the whole, I believe that's Blackbeard who like kind of made it a show.
Yeah, for sure.
So say you're trying to intimidate them. Well, you roll an intimidation check in 5e, but on top of your other benefits, you get to add your infamy rank. You're trying to get a better deal on that pistol you wanted in port. Persuasion check. but you also get to add your infamy score because that man knows that you're part of, Blackbeard's crew. Other vessels can also have infamy as well. The more infamous the crew, the higher the DC of a check is based on their level of infamy. So let's just say, for instance, you're trying to intimidate another very well-known pirate, right? Well,
Yeah.
originally that DC was 15, but because of their infamy, now it's 18 because they're very infamous, right? They got a +3.
Ooh.
Um, each rank of this should be increasingly more difficult to get. And ideally, with the way the balancing works in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, I think +3, +4 is probably the max you want to go. The maximum being kind of legendary pirates of the seas. I think too much more and you run into issues with balance, but the idea is that every exploit or everything they botch, and like this can be influenced in, in any way really, should have some kind of mechanical benefit. And why not just add it to ability checks that people like the fact that, like if you're going into you're going to haggle and someone knows that you're part of like a really infamous crew, like you should have a bonus because you're part of that crew.
Sure.
So that's my first hack, the infamy slash reputation system.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So my point number 2 is like putting a lot of emphasis on puzzles and mysteries. So
Yes.
and I know that doesn't necessarily maybe sound like it totally lines up with Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think that one of the things at the core of the Pirates franchise is superstitions that turn out to be real. And so a lot of this can be achieved with like puzzles and mysteries and things along those lines. A lot of times this franchise features, a seemingly useless magical item. But if you know how it works, it helps you point the way. So a compass that doesn't point north, but it points you to a place, it points you to where the cursed pirate gold is. A map that seemingly looks like it's nothing, but if you learn how to spin the little slots of it correctly, it gives you a pathway to like the other side to Davy Jones's locker or things like that. Um so as a DM, you need to create creating weird, bizarre magical items that maybe don't make a lot of sense unless you really take the time to sit down, explore them, learn about them, passing history checks, passing arcana checks, things like that. You really have to become intimately familiar with the things that you are have in your possession. And this can lead to, other this can lead to sessions where you have to find the object, retrieve the object, and then learn about that object. Um, each thing should point to a new direction, to a new angle, to a new location, because that's one of the biggest things about the this franchise is finding those clues and then following them to their natural conclusions. So
Nice.
there you go.
Yeah, I like it, man. Like complicated, but magic items are definitely a good core part of Pirates of the Caribbean. So, my point number 2 is guns.
What?
Yeah, I think guns are a big part of the Pirates universe, whether we like to
I agree.
and and you know what? Luckily, D&D has you covered already. I would use the pistol musket weapons in the Dungeon Master's Guide. I think the loading property works for what you need. The bullets and the gun itself and the ammunition are pretty expensive. Plus, you're not doing too much more damage over the quote unquote like crossbow, shortbow variants.
Hmm.
Um, in this setting, I would assume that you're proficient with these if you have martial training. Um, I would also probably add a note or some kind of feature that water slash rain can ruin your shots. Um, and getting doused with water or whatever has a chance to lose ammo for that shot. Um, or in that kind of like a mild chance, like a 1 through 5 or a 1 through 2, if you're like taking a shot in the rain because you don't know how much water is going to get on the blasting wicks, if you will. And because gunpowder slash ammo has been simplified for the sake of headaches in 5e, um, instead of manually counting a bullet to gunpowder ratio situation, I would just assume that if your gun gets doused, you lose that ammo. Like you just lose one bit of ammo. You can also use the gunpowder rules for cannonballs, but replace it with bludgeoning damage, maybe making the DC a little higher depending on like the velocity of the cannon, if you will. Which, if memory serves, hitting someone with a powder keg is like 7d6 damage.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's a lot, but doing like half on a save so that you don't necessarily get. But I mean, getting hit with a cannonball would fucking suck.
I would I would hazard to bet that that's an accurate assessment.
Yeah,
I can't speak from experience on this one.
sure, sure.
Weirdly enough.
And my last little bit on this is we could go on all day about whether guns are quote unquote balanced for D&D, but I think the potency are outweighed by the loading feature and kind of the price of admission. And
Mm.
as the game master, if you're worried about balance for these things, you're the one who controls how much ammo they can buy or acquire as they are fighting other pirates or going into ports and stuff. So, you know, don't let them buy 100 box or 100 bullets if you don't feel like that's something that you want to do.
Wow, it's so weird. My point number 3 is let them buy 100 bullets.
Ah, man,
Um,
shit.
just kidding. My point number 3 is swash them buckles.
Ooh.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably surprising to no one that when the writers were writing this movie and when the director was making this movie, they drew a lot of inspiration from those classic Errol Flynn high adventure, swashbuckly films.
Those are some of the
There's a lot.
wildest scenes in Pirates of the Caribbean, though.
Oh, 100%.
Like in
And
the
they're so
second
much fun.
movie, where they're literally swashbuckling as these ships are just like kind of going into a fucking vortex. Like, holy shit.
I don't want to gatekeep. That's technically the third one.
Or, yeah, the third
Uh
one. No, you're fine.
Second one is when they're fighting on the big water wheel.
Oh,
And I
yeah, yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah. Okay, so I
seeing
have
that
seen the third one.
trailer. Yeah. I remember seeing that in the trailer and just being like, "Oh, is this going to be the best movie that's ever made?" And like it's not, but I enjoy it.
It's great.
Um yeah. I mean, I think like that. So the big thing about the combat in Pirates of the Caribbean is that it's inspired by this kind of heightened, Errol Flynn-y high adventure. Lots of swinging the swords around in wild ways and cutting ropes and swinging high and you know using a knife to slide down a mast and things like that. And so creating combat environments with a lot of interactive elements is going to create a much more memorable combat experience for your players. So
And that's
creating
so fucking
environments,
cool.
yeah, right?
Like, I want to
Like,
play in that so bad, like, just thinking about it.
oh my god, right? Like, you cut the rope and you slide up to the second banister, or you're fighting on a water wheel that collapses out. Another good movie that I think it's not quite as fun as the Pirates of the Caribbean, but Aquaman has a couple of really fun sequences that like follow this kind of idea as well. There's like a
Nice.
really fun chase scene through a Venice city,
Yeah.
um, or an Italian city. But yeah, I mean, so it's these creating a thing with lots of interactive elements is definitely going to create fun and memorable combat for your players. So, creating, just allow them to be creative, maybe show an NPC or a villain cutting a rope and swinging up to kind of give your players a visual indicator that, yes, in fact, we are doing combat like this. Um, and then let them explore and let them have fun figuring out what does what to make those combat situations fun and cinematic.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of cinematic combat, my last
Whoa.
tweak is ship combat.
Yeah.
So, while there are new rules for ship combat in Dungeons and Dragons with the Ghost of Saltmarsh and all that, I'm personally fond of leaving the heavy mechanics to like these high stakes adventure scenes. Just push the heavy mechanics to the side and just enhance what's going on through narrative description. And so, if you're familiar with the show, you're probably familiar with what I'm going to say, but we're going to do a good old fashioned 4E skill challenge. Woo! Or rather, in this
Ooh.
case, it's kind of a mix between 5E's group challenge and then the skill challenge from 4E. But
Okay.
basically, like as the ships are like you're getting into ship combat, right? Cannons are firing, arrows are being launched, whatever it may be. Have each player say what they're doing during the fight. And then as the game master, you get to, as they decide what they want to do, tell them to make an appropriate roll based on that thing and figure out what the quote unquote DC is for this fight, right? And then as they're rolling, you describe how they impact the fight. Like, so someone's like, "Oh shit, I'm on the captain's wheel," right? Okay, make a
Mhm.
navigation check or whatever. They roll good. All right, you manage to use the sea to your advantage as you're kind of it's a little choppy, so you're kind of like dipping the boat into waves to like try to avoid a lot of like good lines of sight for the other boat. And like somebody else is like, "Oh, well, I'm shooting cannons," and they fail. It's like, yeah, well, you're aiming the cannons and you're firing, but like your shots are just going wide, or like they kind of like hop, they bounce too hard off of the water and kind of like sail over the boat, things like that. Um,
Hmm.
and the way this works is if all of the party members succeed the DC and there's a crit in the mix, they manage to sink the vessel or make the other boat surrender automatically.
Hmm.
After the group is rolled and there are let's more than half of the party succeeds, then their boat is not in terrible shape and they get to board the other ship and fight a fairly advantageous battle. And this is where we get to the
Huh.
swashbuckling, right?
Yeah.
If more than half of them fail, the party is boarded and their ship has taken some damages and they have to fight a very fairly difficult fight. So the fight is not on their terms. And then if they all fail, it's and I'm not one to be like, "Oh, if they fail a die roll, they die." Like that's not fun. But maybe they're forced into a really super difficult fight, or they're forced to surrender and see where the story takes them now that their crew has been captured, right? Like, let's say
Yeah.
they're fighting a military vessel from a nearby country, right? Um, and they get put in prison. Now there's a cool prison break to get off the island and steal a boat and things like that. Like, there's ways to like not make it just, "Oh, you failed the roll, TPK, you're all dead." That being said, bigger ships or big set pieces should have higher difficulty, somewhere in between the like 15 to 20 range, depending on how high stakes this is. Um, it should be fairly difficult to not have a combat encounter at the end. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't let the DCs go too low either. Because I
Sure.
think the fun in the ship combat is that like you board the other ship and you guys have that like epic swashbuckling, like toe to toe, swords clashing fight. Um that being said, I think this better focuses on the actions of the party and creating a kind of cinematic experience as you describe what your players are doing rather than quote unquote making turns on like your ship and counting hull HP and having moments where ship combat turns into boring rolls with no action. I think at the end of the day, especially with Pirates of the Caribbean, it should be very action focused if you're going to get into combat like that. So this is my
Yeah.
idea of ship combat. It kind of pulls away from what Ghost of Saltmarsh introduces, but I think if you're going to create a Pirates of the Caribbean style game, it would behoove you to do something similar to this rather than the alternative.
Yeah. I'm happy. I was hoping you were going to handle ship combat because I kept thinking
Yeah.
about it and I couldn't find an angle for it.
Nice.
Man, Dungeons and Dragons seems pretty exciting. Oh, also, hey, Swashbuckler is a class. If you have Xanathar's Guide to Everything,
Yeah,
just
it is a
saying.
rogue class, and not, I wouldn't say broken, but it's very good if you like fighting toe to toe with somebody. It's great.
But also, don't let that limit you.
Exactly.
You can build other fun pirates that aren't necessarily rogues as well.
Yeah, I could see
Um,
barbarians being a really fun, like heavy,
yeah,
like I carry around a big fucking maul and I scream at people as I just charge into combat. Like so many cool ways to do it.
fighters.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
obviously, I think it's pretty standard.
Yeah,
But yeah, man, Dungeons and Dragons seems pretty excited to go on this date. I
yeah.
bet we won't be seeing them the next time we record Nerdy Affair.
We'll see.
Um, whoop. Uh, hey, and they're off on their blind date now.
Aw,
He's
it's cute.
taking Pirates of the or Dungeons and Dragons is taking Pirates of the Caribbean to a fish restaurant.
Oh,
So anyway, Cody, if people like what they heard in this episode and they want to learn more, where's a place that they can learn more?
they can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com where they can find all of our episodes as they go live. And if they want to bring their ideas to the Nerdy Affair table, they can scroll all the way to the bottom of the website, go to our form, type in their handle and whatever it is they want to talk about, and give us an idea of what they would like to hear. Because I know there's a thing that we haven't done yet that you're like, oh boy, I really want them to do this thing. So feel free to hit us up there.
Yeah, and if people want to share this episode or other episodes with a friend who doesn't necessarily use the same podcast apps that they do, where are some places where they can find episodes?
We're in a bunch of places. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, basically any of your RSS catching podcast apps. All you got to do is search Fandom Roulette.
And if people want to engage with us on social media, where's some places they can find us on social media?
Well, they can tweet at us at fandomr_podcast. That is our Twitter handle. And then if they want to interact with us on Facebook and Instagram, they can search Fandom Roulette.
Also, please remember to like, rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes.
Um, ring the bell.
Yep.
Leave a comment. Help us move up those ranks.
100%.
Please, hey, leave something nice and fun. Or, if it's criticism, please make it constructive criticism
Yeah,
so we
we
can
would
know
love
how
to
to
improve the show too,
improve.
but we also want to hear from you
Um,
guys and see how much you love all this stuff.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we want to thank you so much for listening. There's a lot of place that you can spend your time during these times, and we're glad that you chose to spend it with us.
Yeah.
Um, so signing off for Fandom Roulette. This is Joe,
And I'm Cody.
and as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.